Welcome back. Part 2 for my Access ticketing database. One of these days, I'll figure out which one of those two ways I want to pronounce it. So this is a continuation. We're just going to add a few more bells and whistles to this. Nothing serious. Just make it a little more user-friendly, I guess you could say. Let it do some more work for us. So let me switch over to my Access. There we go. You can see I've added a few more test records or sample records. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some more buttons up at the top. So I think I'm just going to take myself out of the picture so as not to distract, and you can focus on Access. All right, so we're going to start by switching to Design View. Take your pick how you want to do it, 3 different ways. I'll come up here and switch to Design View. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a button for each one of our lookup tables. That way, if we have to add or modify something in one of the lookup tables, we don't have to open the navigation pane, double click to open the form, and go through all that. We're going to create buttons that go across the top of our form. So we're going to start with our customer, and we'll just work our way across. Okay. We're going to click the command button. We're going to place that button on our form up in the header area. We're going to select Form Operations and Form or Open Form. We'll click Next. We'll select the customer's form that we want to open. We'll click Next. We want to open this form and show all records, so we don't need to make a change at this step. Click Next. And the last change that we're going to make is we're going to, we'll just make this Add Customer. And then we click the Finish button. There's our new button. So we're going to go across, and I'm going to do one for the customer department, category, technician. Don't really need well, yeah, we'll go ahead and put one in for priority because you just never know, and then status. So here we go again. Command button, place the button, Form Operations, Open Form, Customer Department, Open All Records. We'll just put this Add Department. Next, and Finish. Okay, so there's those two. We'll do, I'll just go ahead and create the rest of these so as not to bore you completely to death. Okay. All right, so there's all the buttons. We didn't create a form for priority because that's not a lookup table. We built that one in. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little shortcut. I'm going to click this our original button that's already been formatted. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'll double click the Format Painter, and I'll just click on each one of these new buttons so that they have all the same format. Then I can click and drag to select all of these. Oops, I want all of them. And then I'll right click and I'll align top. That way they're all aligned. And then I can deselect this one and then move the new buttons over to create my own little toolbar. So what I'm doing here is I'm just moving them over, and then I hold down the control key and deselect the leftmost of the selected buttons, and then I move the remaining over. Okay, so there it is. May not be exactly perfect, but it's pretty close. So now we're going to save this, and then we'll go to the form view, and we're going to test it out. We know that add new ticket works. We did that one before. And just like that, there's our form. Now, once this form starts to get longer, you'll notice that the new record is at the bottom. So what you may want to do with this is add a new record button to this as well, so that when your list gets long, you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to find the bottom of the list. So we'll just switch this over to design view. I'll click on my command button, place my button, and this is going to be record operation, add new record, next. And we'll just go with this add employee or add customer. All right, because this is our customer table or form. And then we'll finish that. And then why not make a button to close this when we're done with it, instead of having to come over to the right side, find that little bitty X and click on that. That's easy to do as well. Again, we're going to click the command button. We'll place our button. And this is going to be form operation and close form. Click the next button. Now for this one, there's two options. You can go with the default exit button, which is my preference, or you can use the text close form. I'm just going to go with the default exit. Click finish, and it gives me that nice little square button. And I can just position that up here beside my add customer button. I'm not going to worry about formatting these two buttons. I may or may not be in this form a lot, so I'll just save this, switch to form view. So there you'll see I can add a new customer. It takes me down to the bottom, and when I'm done, I click exit, and it takes me right back to my main form. And then we'll do the same thing for these remaining forms. All right, and there are all of our buttons created, formatted, and programmed, if you will, to do exactly what they're supposed to do. So again, we'll just take a look. If I need to add a department, because I added a new customer, there, click add department. So I can either, on a short list like this, click add department, or I can just click down here, add the new department, and then close that form. So it just makes life easier when you add these additional buttons. So we're going to add another button, but this button's not just going to open a form. We want something a little more involved. I want this button to be able to go in and pull us a week's worth of completed jobs, or a month's worth of completed jobs, or a specific day of completed jobs. Whatever you specify is what I want this button to bring us back. So in order to do this, we have to create a query first. So we're going to go up to the Create tab on the ribbon and select Query Wizard. And this is going to be a simple query. So we'll use a simple query wizard. Boy, that's kind of hard to say. Simple query wizard. Click OK. And I want this to pull information from our tasks table. All right. And just to keep things on the simple, we're going to move everything over to the selected fields. And we're going to have it pull a detailed query. A summary query is used for numbers if you want, an average or a sum or things of that nature. But for just strictly textual data, we're going to go with a detailed query. So we'll select next. And then we're going to modify the query design. Anytime you want specific information and you're doing this query wizard, always select modify the query design, because you have to tell it specifically what information you want pulled out. Otherwise, it's just going to bring back everything that you moved over, okay, the entire table. And that's not what we're looking for here. So I'll click the finish button. And here is my query. This is the query design view. I can make this bigger so that I can see everything in there. Not that I really need to see everything, but I just like to see everything. Got touchy mouse today. All right, so you can see here's all the fields, and all these fields are listed across the bottom. So this is where we're going to specify exactly what information we want it to pull in. So our first criteria is that we want to see all completed tasks. So we're going to come down here to the status field. And here in the criteria area, I'll just show you, it's the criteria, the box or the field right below the checkbox is the criteria field. So we want this to equal completed. So if the status isn't completed, we don't want that record brought in for this query. The second thing we're going to tell it, or we're going to ask it for, is we want a specific end date. Okay? If there's no end date, then it's not going to bring this in. So if there's no end date, it's not completed. Those two kind of go hand in hand, at least they should. So for the end date, what we want this to do is actually pop up a little message box asking us for a start date and an end date. So this is going to be a between request, and then we're going to put in square brackets, and that's what gives us the pop-up. Please enter a start date, close square brackets. So between the start date that we specify and then an end date. Please enter an end date. So there's what I'm looking for. Okay, please enter a start date and an end date. Okay, so show me everything between this date and this date. Make sense? Okay, good. So we'll save this, and then we're just going to give it a test run. Okay, we'll give it a test run. I don't remember exactly what dates I put in to use, but I think I have a general idea. So let's put in here 04, 02, and if you don't add a year, it's automatically going to pick from this year. Okay, so I'll go 04, 02, 2021 to 04, 10. Oops, gotta put my slash in there. 10. Nope. There were there were none completed in those dates. So let me just take a look here. Oh, it was a little later in the year. So let's go from the 9th. Let's see, where does that fall on the calendar? Here's my calendar. So I want April. We can go from, well, those are some wonky. Let's go from the 5th to the 4th to the 10th. We'll go Sunday to Saturday. 4th to the 10th. Okay. So I'll come back here to my task query. We'll switch back to design view. This date and this date. Oh, complete. Huh? Okay, I see I misspelled. I added a D to complete. So we'll get rid of that get rid of the D. And now we'll run our query. If I put in 0410, no, 0409 to 0415, there we go. So these were all completed between the 9th and the 15th. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that these three are all the same, right? Do you notice that? Let me zoom in so you can see. These are all ticket number 8. So now it's not actually duplicating ticket number 8. What it's doing is it's showing you all the occurrences of record 8 that has an attachment. So because we have 3 attachments on record 8, it's creating in the background what are called ghost records. And it's simply showing you that this was complete for each of the attachments. Does that make a lot of sense? Not really. But that's what it's doing. It's creating in the background a record for each of these attachments. If I come back here, let me save this first because it works. I'm going to save that and close it. And if I come back here to this task and I go to my attachments, and I'll just get rid of 2 of those. Now, after I create my button and run the query, you'll see that it's only going to have 1. So let me go ahead and create a new button. So I'm going to switch to design view. Going to add a new button. And I'll just kind of put this one over here kind of by itself because it's a special button. And this is going to run under the miscellaneous category. Okay. Anytime you're going to have a button run a macro, that falls under the miscellaneous category. And here is the action to run query. So we click the next button. There's the query. So we click next again. And then we're going to give it a name. We're going to say date report. That way you can put whatever dates in there you need. And then we'll click finish. So there's my date report. I'll select that button. Or maybe I want this one to be a little bit different. Since it does something different, let's make the button look a little different. So I'll come down to properties and I'll go with a back color. I'll make this one orange. And we'll make the hover color green. And we'll make the pressed color purple. Just to be different. I'll save this. I'll switch to form view. So now when I click my date report, it asks me for my start date. I'll put in 0409. My end date is 0415. So now you'll see that I only have 1 record for ticket number 8. Okay, so if you have multiple attachments, expect to have multiple records if you do this type of query. Okay. So the last thing we need to do before I call this part 2 quits, let me close this. Now you could run that query in a form, you could run that query in a report, whichever you prefer. I'm just going to leave it basic for right now, and then you can decide what you want to do with it. But I want this form to open anytime I open this database. There we go. I've made my decision. It's database. Okay. So what I want is I want this form to open anytime I open this database. So to make that happen, we go up to the File tab. We select Options. We select Current Database. And then here where it says Display Form None, click this drop-down menu button and select Tasks. That's our Tasks form. Okay, form to display. Click OK. It comes up and says to make this happen, you have to close and then reopen the database. All right, I'll close this database. I'll close my other database because I don't need it open. And then I'll come down here and I will tell it to open my ticketing database. And there you will see it opens directly to my tasks form, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So that, my friends, is the conclusion, the end, the finish of my ticketing database. So again, if you have any questions, I'll put my phone number up here. Feel free to give me a call. I'll put my email address up here. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll help you out as much as I can with this stuff. So with that, I am going to say thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. We'll talk to you later.